car full of children goes off a highway on-ramp and into a pond. It happened this morning in St. Louis Park, where Highway 100 and Highway 7 meet. In all, 6 people were inside.
The water was quite deep. I'd estimate what was described to me as a passerby who jumped in the water was standing on the roof of the vehicle and was up to his neck.
Good morning to you. I'm Tom Durian. We begin with team coverage of this breaking news story we've been following since 5 Eyewitness News this morning. Our Beth McDonough is live at HCMC this morning with the latest information on the victims inside the car that went into the pond. But we begin with our Catherine Johnson. She's live at the St. Louis Park Police Department to tell us what happened this morning. Catherine.
Tom, this is what we know. The call for help came in at 6 o'clock this morning, but our cameras were rolling on the rescue as these children were being retrieved from that car at 6:30 in the morning, which means they could have been underwater, trapped in that car for half an hour before they were rescued. This is the chaotic rescue, just minutes before divers and deputies carried 5 children out of the water off Highway 7 and 100 in St. Louis Park. A 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 2 5-year-olds, and a 1-year-old child, all trapped inside this car as it sank 8 to 9 feet into the freezing cold pond.
They were all transported to HCMC, and they're currently being treated
at a news conference. Lieutenant Eric Roski with State Patrol couldn't give us an update on the children's condition, but he did speak on the toll this rescue is taking on both the victims and crews.
The trauma of, seeing young lives in peril and rescuing them and doing our best to rescue them.
State Patrol says the driver, a 23-year-old woman, is the mother of at least one of the children in the car. She climbed out of the vehicle before it sank, but the kids were trapped.
You're looking at probably 8-9 feet deep, incredibly cold, nearly freezing temperature water. Made it a very difficult situation for someone to try to get in there and get in that vehicle.
Before crews even arrived, people were stopping their cars, running out of nearby apartment buildings, and jumping in the water to help.
A passerby who jumped in the water was standing on the roof of the vehicle and was up to his neck.
The car sank so deep, so quickly, a tow truck had to pull it to shallower depths before all 5 children could be carried out. And State Patrol also told us that this morning the road conditions were wet, but not slick. That car traveled 40 to 50 yards off the road to get into that pond, and right now crews are still out at the scene trying to learn exactly how this happened. Live in St. Louis Park, Catherine Johnson, 5 Eyewitness News.
All right, Catherine, thanks for that. We turn now to Hennepin County Medical Center. That's where the 5 children were taken to be treated for their injuries. It's reported, as Catherine said, that they were underwater for as long as 20 to 30 minutes after that crash. 5 Eyewitness News reporter Beth McDonough is live outside the hospital with the latest on their conditions this morning. Beth?
Yeah, Tom, all 5 children, including the driver of that car, the 23-year-old, were all brought here to HCMC just about sunrise this morning. We have confirmed that the 23-year-old female, that she was brought here in stable condition, that she was conscious and she was awake. The conditions are much less clear for the 5 children that were in the vehicle. And as Catherine mentioned, they are infant age, ranging up to school-age children, 1, 5, 5, 6, and 7. We are not sure which of those children are little girls and which of those children are little boys at this point. We do know that they were unresponsive when they were plucked from the cars. Catherine mentioned they were trapped in near freezing water temperatures. We have confirmed that they were in critical condition when they were rushed here to the hospital this morning. St. Louis Park Police, along with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department and state troopers, are here. They are working on questioning the driver at this time. Medical experts at the hospital tell us that being trapped in freezing water temperature is the worst kind of water to be trapped in, because anyone can lose their body heat 25 times faster in freezing water temperatures than you can whenever the water temperature is just normal. So we're standing here outside of the hospital. We've called plenty of folks here at the hospital working to get condition updates on the children. Obviously, their first priority is working to save the lives of these children, and they did tell us whenever they can give us an update, they certainly will. Folks have walked by here, stopping us on the sidewalk, wanting us to pass along that they are pulling for these children. Live outside of HCMC, Beth McDonough, 5 Eyewitness News.
Certainly an entire community, Beth, doing that this morning. We're going to check back in with Beth this morning at 11:30, as well as Catherine. We'll continue to follow this story closely here on 5 Eyewitness News, and you can get the latest updates anytime on KSTP.com. Well, now is a good time to remind you about the tips from the DNR about how to prepare if you're ever stuck in a situation like that one that happened today in St. Louis Park. Vehicles can sink in seconds, but most take a minute or two for that water to get inside. The best escape hatches are, of course, the side windows. That's because the doors can be forced shut by that water pressure. But that pressure will release once the car fills with water. And of course, the doors may get closed if they get blocked by anything that may be in the body of water that you end up in. That's why it's recommended you keep something like this inside your car. It's called an auto escape keychain right here. This one opens up, and at the beginning of it here is a little bit of a knife, and you can use this so that you can get out of your seatbelt if you happen to be stuck in that. Now here's what's at the bottom, and this is how it works to get you out of the car. We'll show it right over here. You'll just be able to hear this. That creates a quick snap on the window of the car, and it should crack that window, shatter it, allowing you to push it out even if it's a safety glass there. You can see it's an auto escape keychain. You can purchase it at an auto parts store. Then there's other ways to do it as well. They all use somewhat of a similar concept there to get you out of the car. And as the temperatures start falling, hypothermia can set in quickly, of course. And recently we asked a doctor at HCMC about how they care for a patient that comes in with those conditions.
Closed chest CPR, open chest CPR, where we do a thoracotomy and directly warm the heart and lungs by pouring warm saline on it, putting tubes into the abdominal cavity to rewarm that way.
Well, Dr. Burnett says there's also a new tool called the Lucas. It's an automated CPR device that looks just like this. So he says so far its effectiveness is very impressive and it's less invasive. That's all done by professionals, of course. As for the people just trying to help out, as we heard that there were this morning, the best thing you can do is perform CPR and call 911. Snow is in our forecast for the coming hours. Let's get right over to meteorologist Jonathan Uhas for a look at when it could be here and how much we're going to get, Jonathan.
It won't be a lot, and it's going to be here around 3 o'clock this afternoon. The storm is kind of in different pieces, so it's not well organized, but what we're watching here is a line of snow that is over north central Minnesota back into South Dakota, and you can see a little area developing here by Laverne and Worthington, and that is what is going to be spreading this way as we get into the afternoon hours. So at this moment, all around the Twin Cities, it's just cloudy, and at times there's been a few maybe flurries flying around, but the main snow areas are still to the northwest. Now here's how this will play out today. What we're going to see is around 3 o'clock this afternoon, this area of snow expanding and moving toward the Twin Cities. Unfortunately, this is rush hour, and that's when this is coming through between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock. It'll only be a coating to an inch, but it is going to make things slow. I'll let you know how cold it's going to be after this snow. That's coming up in about 7 minutes.
Okay, Jonathan, thanks. 2 different incidents involving planes overnight. A cargo plane landed at the wrong airport, and it's now stuck there because the runway is too small for the plane to take off again. And an emergency slide popped open in midair on a JetBlue plane. ABC's David Curley has more on both the incidents.
This morning, a giant jumbo jet at the wrong airport, unable to turn around because of a short runway. The pilots of the 747 are facing some serious questions.
Giant 4241, we'll get back to you here momentarily. We're not on your approach. Tunnel is 9 miles southeast. Yes, sir. We just landed at the other airport.
The cargo plane was supposed to touch down at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas, but ended up at a much smaller airport a few miles away, needing a tow to turn around.
Apparently, we've landed at BEC. Giant 4241, have you verified you're on the ground at Beach Airport? We think so.
This is not a new route for the jumbo jet, which has successfully landed at the Air Force Base 20 times over the past several months.
This is actually something that happens far more often than it ought to. It usually happens with less experienced crews. It tends to happen at night where people see lights out there and they can't visually ID the field that they're actually wanting to go to.
Meanwhile, passengers on a JetBlue flight from Fort Myers, Florida to Boston got a big surprise just 25 minutes into their flight. Look at this. That's the front door emergency slide, which blew, only partially deploying, but nearly filling the front part of the cabin. The flight attendant pinned for a while. Passengers say it took several minutes just to figure out how to deflate the slide.
They had managed to deflate it and get the plane in working order enough to get it back to Orlando.
Overnight, JetBlue told ABC News the aircraft landed safely and customers deplaned from the rear door. The aircraft was taken out of service for further inspection. Safety officials will want to know about that slide investigation as well. Now, as far as the 747, a tug had to come out, turn around the aircraft, and take it to the other end of the runway so it could take off and go to the right airport. David Curley, ABC News, Reagan National Airport.
The ice rink next to Rice Park was vandalized last night. We're told someone drove their car through the rink. And as you can see from these photos, it looks like the barriers that would hold the water in the rink were damaged. The coils that will keep the water cool were also damaged. Right now, officials don't know if the people who did the damage were trying to steal the coils. They are made out of copper and can be a target for people looking for. Organizers also said that the damage was estimated at around $30,000. But the good news here is that the park should open in time. That is November 9th. December 9th, I should say. 30th of November is the actual date we've got there. It's something a lot of us were looking forward to. The release of the Cities 97 sampler, the 25th anniversary edition, is out today. The sampler is being sold at metro area Target stores, and this year's edition includes hits like Capital Cities, Safe and Sound, and Passengers Let Her Go. All proceeds go to the Minnesota charities, and some have been willing to wait all night for their copy of this CD.
These folks back here have some been waiting in line starting at 10:30 last night.
Now, there are only 40,000 copies available. In fact, several Targets are already sold out. We're told that the CD actually sold out in about 20 minutes. Some of them did. To find out which stores have copies left, you can go to our website at kstp.com. A dangerous and violent crime spreading across the country. What local police are saying about the criminals targeting people just walking down the street.
My memory of the accident only goes up until about third gear. I was in sixth gear when the accident happened and the car pitched sideways. And really, I have no memory whatsoever of it.
But a camera caught this crash and everything that happened to the driver inside. Next, what he says allowed him to live through it. She was hundreds of miles above the earth for months.
Going over the United States goes so fast. You really have to be prepared that, you know, you're flying over the coast of California and the next thing you know, there's central Minnesota.
Ahead, what she did for fun in space when she wasn't working, and the hobby she loves more now after logging 75 million miles around the Earth. This time of year, carbon monoxide poisonings will go up. In fact, on average, they will kill 14 Minnesotans each year. Most point to the furnace as a likely source, but wood-burning fireplaces are a source as well. The problem is the backdraft there. That's when the airflow goes down the chimney into the home instead of letting the fumes go up and out as they should. Experts say that can be caused by an obstructed chimney or a fire that isn't burning hot enough.
And when that flame dies down, the coals, the embers, that crackling red fire that happens at the bottom, those basically become carbon monoxide factories.
Now, state law requires that carbon monoxide detectors are within 10 feet of every bedroom. It's also a good idea to place one by fireplaces and get chimneys inspected every year, maybe get them sweeped. It is certainly the time of the year, Jonathan, and coming up, I know you're going to show us Saturday temperatures. It's going to make people definitely want to turn on the fireplace and make sure you get it checked first.
It's going to have a sting on Saturday, so don't even think today is cold. Don't feel cold tomorrow, okay? Because Saturday means business. Yeah. All right, let's throw the camera outside and take a look. And it's just a gray, cloudy day. By the way, last year on this date, it was 62 degrees. Ooh. Not so this year. That's why you can't plan outdoor weddings in November in Minnesota. You just don't know year to year what you're going to have. But we are looking at cloudy skies here in the Twin Cities. No snow yet, but let's take a look at the snow odds here. And look at the jump that we go from for the chance for snow. You have pretty much, if you wanted to make a bet on it at noon, a 5% chance. That's it. So don't bet for snow at noon. It goes up to 70% by 3 o'clock, 80% by 6 o'clock. This puts us in the rush hour time frame. This isn't going to be a heavy snow, but you know how it goes. People slow down and slow rush hour just because it's snowing a little bit. So be prepared for a slow go home tonight, even though this, again, is not going to be a big snowmaker for us. A coating to an inch is all we're forecasting. And then look at by 9 o'clock, the snow odds start heading down again to 30%. So unfortunate timing here, puts that right in that evening rush hour, but we're not expecting heavy snow here in the metro. It's 30 degrees outside. Look at the wind chill, 21. This is nothing compared to what we have coming this way as we get into Saturday. Temperatures are above freezing east of the metro, falling below freezing to the west, and it's even colder yet. In northwestern Minnesota, it's in the teens, but this colder air is actually chasing the snow away. Because the colder air is coming in so fast, it's preventing a bigger snow from happening here. And so here's the setup we have. This is what we're looking at for snow right now, running from northeastern Minnesota through the central part of the state back into South Dakota. That is coming this way, but that is a very thin line. We're seeing some more snow develop here in southwestern Minnesota, but then you have this big break in Iowa, and then you hit the rain. So it's not all coming together very well to produce a heavy snowfall. So what we will see is about a coating to up to 2 inches of snow falling across southern Minnesota here as we get into the late afternoon and evening hours, with most of the accumulating snow staying just south of the Twin Cities. But right now, this is west of New Ulm. This is out down toward Slayton and Windham. We're starting to see snow fly. That's important to watch because that's what's aiming toward the Twin Cities. Now, farther to the northwest here, this area at Sauk Center, Alexandria, and back to Elbow Lake, that is all moving to the northeast. That's headed more toward the Brainerd, Little Falls area and not the metro. This is the setup. 3 o'clock, here comes the snow approaching the Twin Cities. That's all these blue areas. By 6 o'clock, it is right over us. And then by 7 o'clock, it starts running away from us. And then as we get into the overnight hours, it's gone. And then tomorrow, we have another area of light snow approaching from the north, but not a big deal with that. The forecast for the Twin Cities today, light snow developing here in the next few hours, coating to an inch. We'll say 3 o'clock for that snow developing. And then as we get into tonight, we'll have light snow early, then just some flurries. Overnight low drops to 19. And we've been telling you and teasing you it is going to be cold. Look at Saturday. You see that, Tom?
Unfortunately, I do.
Those are not typos. That is a 18-degree high followed by a 6-degree low Sunday morning. And then we take it out to Thanksgiving. We were thinking maybe a storm before Thanksgiving. At this point, it just looks cold, which it's a lot easier to travel in cold than it is snow.
Yeah,
right?
Oh, gosh, 8 degrees overnight. Huh? And then they're going to have the
6
game.
degrees.
6 degrees, I'm sorry. It used to be 8. It's gone down. They're going to have the game down the street. It's going to be pretty cold there.
Well,
Golfers.
Yeah. That's the way it's going to be. So be ready for it. You've been warned.
Yeah. All right. Bring your blankets and everything if you're going out there. And we'll update you throughout the week and on 5 Eyewitness News this morning on Saturday. The last time we spoke with Minnesota astronaut Karen Nyberg, she and her hair were dealing with zero gravity aboard the International Space Station. Now her 6-month-long mission is over and she is back on Earth. And 5 Eyewitness News reporter Tim Chernow has more on her incredible journey.
And liftoff.
Talk about an exotic trip.
Hello to Minnesota.
Astronaut Karen Nyberg from Vining, Minnesota, departed Earth back in May atop a Russian rocket. She spent 6 months aboard the International Space Station doing research. We talked to her.
We usually work daytimes, about 7 in the morning till 7 at night.
With some time for fun.
My magnetic case with my needles.
Nyberg hosted a quilting bee from space.
I did make one square for this, and it's going to be really neat to see what other people come up with.
Maybe we'll see the space quilt at the state fair.
Possibly. I'm not sure what the plan is for the quilt once it's complete.
In space, she said she spent a lot of time looking out the windows and trying to share the experience through photography.
Yes, I love taking pictures, and in fact, I was enjoying it more and more as the mission went on. And
she tweeted from space. She says the view makes our big world look smaller.
But I'd had Minneapolis in one corner and my hometown in the other, and just showing that distance, you know, this is a 3.5-hour drive, and it was all in one picture.
That 3.5-hour drive takes the International Space Station 36 seconds.
Going over the United States goes so fast. You really have to be prepared. That, you know, you're flying over the coast of California, and the next thing you know, there's central Minnesota.
And when it was time to come home in a Russian space capsule...
It's a lot different than the space shuttle, and you pull a lot of G's coming in. We were close to five times our weight coming in, and it's pretty dynamic when the parachute opens.
Tim Chernow, 5 Eyewitness News.
And talk about a very Minnesotan thing to do. Nyberg came back to Earth with something special, the first hockey puck to travel to space. More reports overnight of a dangerous and violent crime spreading across the country, but the knockout game is anything but. What local police are saying about the criminals who are targeting people just walking down the street. Let's take a look at what's happening on Wall Street at this midday hour. There you go. Dow Jones up 93 points, just below that 16,000 mark. The Nasdaq up 34 points this morning. Hyundai drives ahead with its fuel cell vehicles, and the CEO of Hilscher wants to get bigger. Teal Jennings has more in the Bloomberg Ag and Energy Report.
Healthier choices. The CEO of Hilscher Brands says he's looking at making acquisitions and is focused on creating new chicken and turkey products. Sean Connolly, speaking at Bloomberg's Year Ahead conference, said there's a continued trend toward wellness. Rosneft, which is Russia's biggest oil producer, also has deals on its mind. It's in talks to buy Morgan Stanley's global oil business, including transportation and storage operations. This is according to a person briefed on the discussions and and comes as regulators review banks' commodities businesses. Meantime, China and India pushed the U.S. on climate change. More on that after this.
Presented by American Express. This is what membership is. This is what membership does.
You get your coffee here. You get your haircut here. You find that certain thing you were looking for here. But actually, you get so much more. When you shop at these small local businesses, you support all the things that make your community great. The money you spend here stays here, in this place you call your neighborhood. Small Business Saturday is November 30th. Get out and shop small.
Yesterday, I told you about the negative outlook on fuel cell vehicles from Nissan and Tesla. Well, Hyundai's driving ahead with plans to lease a fuel cell SUV for $499 a month after $3,000 down, trying to move ahead of Honda and Toyota in the market for hydrogen-powered vehicles. Hyundai's initially targeting California, which has the most hydrogen fuel stations in the U.S. Meantime, China and India are stepping up pressure on wealthy countries like the U.S. to move first on fighting global warming, saying they're the most to blame for rising temperatures. The comments show the big challenge negotiators face in coming up with a treaty by 2015 that could replace the Kyoto Protocol. At the CME Group in Chicago, I'm Teal Jennings with the Bloomberg Ag and Energy Report.
Well, he was pushing a car to its limit and passed it.
My memory of the accident only goes up until about third gear. I was in sixth gear when the accident happened and the car pitched sideways. And really, I have no memory whatsoever of it.
But a camera, take a look, catches the crash and everything that happened to the driver inside. Next, what he says allowed him to live through it.
And coming up, the latest on the investigation into how a car traveled off the highway and into a pond with 5 children inside.
A car full of children goes off a highway on-ramp and into a pond. It happened this morning in St. Louis Park, where Highway 100 and Highway 7 meet. In all, 6 people were inside.
The water was quite deep. I'd estimate what was described to me as a passerby who jumped in the water was standing on the roof of the vehicle and was up to his neck.
And we have team coverage of this story that continues to develop. Our Beth McDonough is live at HCMC this morning with the latest information on the victims that were inside that car that went into the pond. But we start with our Catherine Johnson. She's live at the St. Louis Park Police Department to tell us what happened this morning. Catherine.
Tom, we just spoke with investigators who are working hard right now to try to figure out exactly how this happened. They say road conditions this morning were wet, but not necessarily slick when a car carrying 6 people, 5 of them children, drove off the northbound ramp at Highway 100 and Highway 7, crashing into a freezing cold pond. State Patrol tells us the driver, a 23-year-old woman, was able to pull herself out as the car started to sink. But it took at least 30 minutes for dive teams to get all 5 children out of the sedan and into ambulances. Crews are exhausted as they, too, wait to learn how the children are doing.
The effects on responders can be long-term as well as short-term. The physical discomfort of going into an ice-cold body of water, the trauma of, seeing young lives in peril and rescuing them.
Now, we don't know if the children were in car seats or even belted when this happened. We do know that there were 6 people in that 5-seated sedan when it went into the pond. Live in St. Louis Park, Catherine Johnson, 5 Eyewitness News.
Catherine, thanks. And we now turn to Hennepin County Medical Center. That's where the 5 children were taken to be treated for their injuries. Now, it is reported that they were underwater, as Catherine said, for as long as 20 to 30 minutes after that crash. And 5 Eyewitness News reporter Beth McDonough is live outside the hospital this morning with the latest on their conditions. Beth, what are they telling you?
Well, Tom, we can confirm that the driver of the vehicle, the 23-year-old woman, that she was alert and awake at the time she was brought to the hospital, and that they consider her to be in stable condition. And in fact, all 6 people, that female driver, in addition to the 5 children, brought here to HCMC. Those children range in age from infant all the way to school-age children. It's not clear how many of those children are girls, how many of those children are boys at this point. We do know that they were unconscious, unresponsive when they were plucked from the car. We have confirmed that they're listed in critical condition right now when they were rushed to the hospital this morning at around sunrise. It is not clear if the children were wearing seatbelts or if they were restrained by car seats. St. Louis Park Police Department, along with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department and the state troopers are here. They are still working to determine the relationship between the driver and the children. We do know that one of those children was hers. They're also working on questioning the driver. And Tom, as we mentioned at the top of the newscast, when we spoke with Hennepin County doctors here, they told us that being trapped in freezing water temperatures, the worst kind of water temperature to be trapped in, because a person can lose their body heat 25 times faster in cold water than in just say normal water temperature. We put in some phone calls just a few moments ago.